Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Crown and today we are going to have some more stories that I hope that you will enjoy. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now, without further ado, let's go! I bought a house 4 years ago in a quiet neighborhood. I had wanted to get into that neighborhood for years, and my best friend lives there. It was a couple blocks from my kid's school. It was overall a good neighborhood. Then COVID hit. My neighbors across the street were forced to move at the beginning of the pandemic, before the eviction moratorium was in place. They were really good neighbors, and we were friendly with each other, and we were sad to see them go. So when the property owner rented to a new family, we were hoping we could cultivate a friendly relationship. Unfortunately, that was not the case. About a month after they moved in, the lockdown started. And that's when things went from 0 to 100 real quick. For the next year, every night there was a huge party. Cars down the street, music so loud you could hear it over regular house noise in every room in my house. My friend in the next cul-de-sac would tell me regularly if the music he was hearing was my neighbor's. We tried to be civil. I asked politely and I brought them beer and offered some killer for 120. Eventually they threatened me and my wife, so we started calling the police. Almost every night for 4 months. We organized with the neighbors and they started calling the police as well. Eventually the others gave up and started selling their houses because the renters were just that bad. We were still upside down on our place, so it wasn't an option for us. Eventually, the police told me that I needed to stop calling in, that it wasn't their issue to deal with. That I was a bigger nuisance than the renter's music. It was at that time the house market was taking off. Houses were selling in my area for 40 to 50k over appraisal value. My wife and I looked at what we needed to make so we could move and listed our home for that. In 3 days we had a handful of obscene offers to choose one, but it was the lowest offer that stood out to us the most. Their offer was a good 20k under the next lowest, but they sent a letter. I'm a sucker for a letter, especially one with a picture of a young pregnant couple and a dog, and a patrol car. Turns out, the young man is a police officer newly appointed at the local PD, and he takes his patrol car home. I knew at that point that this was a family to sell the house to. Money be damned. I moved out as the neighbors were throwing a huge party. The next day, the police moved in, and they haven't had another since. I drive by regularly on my way to my buddy's place, and they just sit quietly in their garage, looking bored. I make sure I honk and wave every single time. So me and my girlfriend are driving to work at around 7:30. We share one car. We're exhausted and have no idea what kind of extremely entitled witchiness is about to go down. We're stopped at a red light for a couple of minutes when out of nowhere, slam! We're hit from behind. The light is still red, by the way. Luckily, we were at the front of the line of cars, so we weren't pushed into another car. But the collision was hard enough to give us both mild whiplash. I look back at the person that hit us and of course, she has her phone in hand. I can only assume this was the cause of the accident, as she wouldn't admit she was looking at her phone. Now all of this is bad, but doesn't really constitute entitled witchiness. That part comes next. The first thing she says as she gets out of the car, "Can we make this quick? You're gonna make me late for work." No apology whatsoever. Not a shred of concern or guilt in her tone. Wow, screw you, lady. Do you think we're out driving around at 7:30 on a weekday to get fresh air? You're making us late for work. That's what I wanted to say. But I wasn't ready to be confrontational yet, as I had not realized the magnitude of this lady's witchiness. I just asked to exchange information and started taking pictures of our wrecked bumper. Then she hits me with this gem. You know, there is no proof that I caused that damage. And this is where I lost it. I am generally a very calm person, but when someone gives me a perfectly justified opportunity to lose it, you better believe I'm gonna take advantage. I take it from 0 to 100 instantly. Oh, real classy. Yeah, no proof except the 50 witnesses we have. It was bumper-to-bumper traffic, and the whiplash in our necks that we have every right to sue you over. It wasn't that bad, but I don't know, I was just yelling whatever at this point. And maybe the paint from your car that's now smeared all over our bumper? She is completely unfazed. Her only response? You should know I work with cops. Oh heck. This Karen is such a high-tier witch. She thinks she can intimidate me with the fact that she's an accountant for a police department or something. Yes, and I work with crops. These facts are equally irrelevant to this situation. I don't work with crops, but I thought it was funny at that moment. In retrospect, I wish I had a more fury come back to this flagrant witchiness. She continues to drop the fact that she works with cops as we force her to give us her information and then get the hell out of there. Her insurance paid for the damage, but not before she called me for one last witch fit. Of course, she tries once more to intimidate me with the fact that cops exist, and I immediately hung up. Maybe I should have tried to get her fired for using her proximity to police as a threat, but I was done interacting with this Karen. Weeks later, I saw her around the neighborhood, and I just shot her a giant smile and waved. But she did not wave back. I would like to start off by saying that when I get angry, I get furious. My sister calls it Hulk mode, where I get huge doses of adrenaline. My rage does not mix well with the fact that I don't mind watching people suffer. I'm not saying I'm a bad guy, I help people when I can. But if someone does me or someone I care about wrong, I enjoy their pain with little to no remorse. Anyway, on to the story. I'm pretty much the unofficial caretaker of my youngest sister. I'm 17 and she's 6. But as her big brother and me looking around early to mid-20s, I'm constantly mistaken for her dad. I always walk her to and from school. Her elementary school is about 3 blocks from the high school. I do schooling online. So there are constantly kids my age walking by our house. Now, I love my sister more than anything in this world, and I'm very protective of her. We love playing together and building snowmen in winter. This is exactly when the incident took place. We live in Indiana, so we get some crazy snow. We were building a snow person family while I, the big strong brother, would pretty much stack the snowmen on top of each other while she pulled them up. I never leave her alone outside for more than a few seconds, and always keep an eye on her. We have a fence in the yard, so it should be fine, right? Keep playing, I'll go get some hot cocoa. I told her. Yay! Cue the jerk, a kid I knew well but never had the pleasure of meeting. As I make the hot chocolate, I hear my sister crying. I just figured one of the 4 snowmen fell over or something like that. Hey, calm down and come here. The hot cocoa is ready. She doesn't come and doesn't stop crying. But then I hear her laughing. I step outside, it was freezing cold with no coat, and there were 3 kids, all around my age. We will call the one I knew from school the jerk. The snowmen were destroyed, sticks and scarves thrown everywhere. But that was not important. Well, isn't it Humpty Dumpty? Is this your dad? That jerk asks my sister. She doesn't answer, and I guess he doesn't like that. He pushes my sister down with a strike to her face. Her nose is all red. She falls and hits her head on the sidewalk, and she starts screaming. Blood coming from the back of her head. At first my heart stopped. My first thought and biggest fear was brain damage. I rushed over to her and tried to pick her up, take her inside, and call an ambulance. The 3 jerks had walked up behind me without me noticing, cause I was too distracted. As I started to lift her, one of those jerks grabbed my arms, causing me to drop her, luckily into the soft snow this time. Let go of me, you jerk! She's hurt! I scream at him. As this jerk held me, another one picked up a pile of snow and just piled it on my little sister's face. By now she wasn't screaming. It was a weak whimper, and I was so scared she was going to die. Black. Most people say they see red, or time slows, but not me. I knew exactly what I was doing, but it was like I was watching it on TV. I bit the jerk holding me on a thumb, drawing blood. He yells as he lets go and jumps back, and I lunge forward. Now I'm fat. I'm 6 foot on the dot and about 330 pounds, but I have also played football my whole life and knew how to use my size. I slammed into the jerk, harming her as hard as I could, taking him to the ground. I was on top of him and was bringing the hammer down. I don't really know how many times I hit him, but he lost teeth, shattered his nose, and lost eyesight in one eye. My knuckles were shredded raw, but I had so many adrenaline in me I didn't feel it. In fact, the only reason I stopped was because I heard a thump. I did not really hear it, I felt it. Then I felt liquid trickle down the back of my head. It was blood. The main jerk had hit me over the head with a brick. Now this definitely hurt after the fight, but again, when I have adrenaline pumping through me, I feel absolutely nothing. I charged at him as he raised the brick again. He must not have expected my speed with my size, because he jumped back and hesitated. I didn't. I slammed him into my dad's truck, parked on the roadside. He dropped the brick and I punched him in the gut. He bent over and I lifted my knee to meet with his face, and he falls to the ground. I pick up the brick, I walk beside him and put it on a sidewalk. I put his hand on the brick, no resistance from him, and I stomped as hard as I could. He screamed louder than anything I have heard, and I do the same with his other hand. One of the two other jerks, after seeing his buddies getting pummeled, he immediately fleeted. Turns out he called the cops and said I killed his friends. I walked over to my sister who was breathing, but he was weak. I called an ambulance, but the only thing I muttered was she's hurt and our address. When I hung up, I passed out. I woke up handcuffed to a hospital bed, not knowing what happened. Apparently, I broke multiple bones in both my hands and needed stitches on the back of my head. Thankfully, my sister was fine. She had just lost a lot of blood. The other 3 jerks, not so lucky. The only thing I did to one of the jerks was bite his thumb. I guess I didn't know that I almost bit his thumb off. The main jerk had serious hand injuries, needing multiple hand surgeries on each one. I later found out he lost 3 fingers and cannot use his right hand. But the 3rd jerk got the worst of it. He lost his sense of smell, lost eyesight in one eye, bit a hole in his tongue, fractured his jaw, lost multiple teeth, fractured his skull, and had major swelling on the brain, in which he barely survived by the skin of his teeth. At least the ones he has left. After a bit, a nurse came and checked on me, saw that I was awake and went to get a cop. The cop came in and asked me a bunch of questions, and I told the truth. I don't know, it was black. He then uncuffed me from the bed and said that they watched our security cameras, and while a bit excessive, I acted in self-defense of myself and others. Some might ask how I can describe the fight so well if it was all black, unreal like watching TV. Another good question would be about the beginning where I said I enjoyed others suffering if they deserved it. To answer both those questions, I have the security recording. The police took the footage from the monitor, but the camera also gets into our phones. I love watching it. I've probably watched it a million times. I only have 2 regrets about the whole ordeal. I let the one who was holding me get away with only a small injury. And my last regret? I don't think they suffered enough. The footage showed the fight lasted less than 1.5 minutes, and I wish it would have been hours. To preface, this isn't my story, it's my husband's. My husband works for a large car dealership as a service writer and is the middleman between customers and a technician/mechanics. The Karen in question comes in to have some service done on her car. Nothing major. When done, the valet/porter has a small fender bender with another car. It wasn't anything serious, but the manager assured her they would fix the bumper at their cost and would not report the replacement bumper on the accident history. In the meantime, she can have a rental car for free while they repair her bumper. Fast forward a week and her car is ready for her to take home. Managers have been trying to get her to come in to get her car and return the rental, but she refuses to come in. They finally get her to come in today, and she makes a scene that she wants an appraiser and her lawyer here to look over the car, because the dealership is trying to pull the wool over her eyes. She then demands if the repairs are not up to snuff, then she wants a new car to replace her car, all the while refusing to turn over the rental keys. Hubby's direct supervisor slips out and moves a car that would block the rental car from moving and heads back inside to talk to her. Supervisors and a dealership manager are telling her she can appraise it and lawyer up all she wants, but she needs to leave them the rental, take her car, and do that elsewhere. She doesn't like that and storms off to live in a rental. Once she sees it's blocked, she starts screaming that they have trapped her in and is screeching to be let out. She pulls out her phone recording everything for evidence for her lawyer. The manager calmly tells her that she's not leaving with the company's rental. Her car is not being blocked and she's more than welcome to take her car and leave. Again, asking for the rental keys. She refuses, screaming and trying to cause a scene at the store, which it was pouring all day and is a Monday on the slower days, so she's making a scene for no one. The manager said enough was enough, and he called the cops. Cops come and get details from both sides before telling Karen that no, you can't keep the rental car. You're not getting a new car. And if you don't turn over the key, you'll be arrested for theft. She's still being belligerent until a female officer steps up and tells her she can either hand over the rental keys or she'll wrestle them from her. Karen makes a pissy face and tosses the keys at the manager before storming off to her car to leave. The kicker? Turns out the car was actually a prize car from the dealership. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.